meeting you right where you are on your foster care journey. This is the Forgotten Podcast.
Missy Bell is an adoptee, ministry leader, and caseworker who serves with Olive Crest in San Diego. From early dreams of serving overseas to a calling right in her own community, Missy now leads a team that serves foster families and youth who have been trafficked, also the parents in crisis through Family Preservation Ministries. Missy is passionate about helping the church see and care for teenagers in foster care. Missy, what a gift to have you on today. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Jami. It's a joy.
Well, I know that you have a passion for teenagers, and I'm just curious, where did that come from?
Yeah, I think it started when I was working at a church, maybe 7 years ago. And we had a homework club. It was for a low socioeconomic community in Section 8 housing. And I wanted to serve outside of my church walls. And the homework community was quite literally in the neighborhood. And I got to journey alongside an awesome group of middle schoolers. And I just came to love them. I learned that middle schoolers, their shell is so thin. And once you kind of crack it, they're just these really sweet and tender and joyful and vivacious kids that just want to be loved. And I think just working alongside them, I learned that they're not scary, that they're just kids. And I remember too, when I was in youth group during my high school years, just how much the ministry leaders or the leaders of the youth group meant to me. And I think the teen years and the middle school years can be really challenging years, if not for a trusted adult in someone's life. And so I just came to love that age range. And when I stepped into Olive Crest 5 years ago, I started seeing families that wanted to say yes to children under the age of 5. And that's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
We need foster families. But it is so rare for us to have a family that wants to foster teens. And whenever a family did come across that wanted to, there would be this like celebration in the office because it's like, finally, we got one. And I just wish there was more families that were willing to say yes to these kids that are truly just that, they're kids. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. I love that not only, I think what I really appreciate about what you just shared there is such a positive view of middle schoolers, teens, because I think it is very easy to think about the negative things or to talk about the negative things or the challenges, right? But I agree with you, and I think that's a beautiful start. So thank you just for your heart posture for our kids. And you said you want more foster parents, or you wish more would take them. What is the need in your area specifically, but then also expand, do you know of the need across the country? Is it similar? Is it different?
Yeah. So currently right now in San Diego County, where I'm located, there is 1,800 kids in foster care. So that means 250 kids a month are being placed into foster care, and approximately that means like 1 every 3 hours. And this does not, when we think of kids being placed into the foster care system, again, I think we just naturally think towards infants and babies and toddlers, but that does not discriminate. We have kids that are older that are being placed. And so need for teenagers is astronomical. I have placement emails every day, multiple times a day for 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds. And they are so hard to find a family for because there's just not many families ready and willing to say yes. And again, they're just teenagers. I think that's what I wish I could tell everyone is like, they are just kids. I think once they turn like 14, people are like, oh, they're adults. And I'm like, no. Like they are still kids. They're still they're still little ones that need a loving person in their life. They're just dealing with different things. I also like to joke with our foster families that, hey, at least us adopted kids and foster kids, we have research done on us. You can read a book and know what hardship to expect. Whereas your bio kids, that's just a puzzle you just get to figure out on your own.
That's right. Yeah.
And then I think too, I think if more people understood, as well as that largely when a youth is in foster care, they're about like half, their maturity is about half of their numerical age. So if you have a 17-year-old,
That's
you're
good to hear.
really, sometimes they're going to behave like a 9-year-old. And so you're really just helping them mature to their numerical age. Yeah.
I think that's so important to hear. I remember when we were in foster care classes many years ago, and how they talked to us about the difference between numerical age, biological age, versus the emotional age versus the experiential age.
Yep.
And so many of our kids who've experienced foster care have experienced things much that a person who's 50, 60, 70 maybe has never experienced.
Yeah.
And that does something to you, but yet, it hasn't had those building blocks to. I mean, maybe talk more about that. You're the expert here, and talk more about what that looks like.
That's exactly right. Like you mentioned, a lot of our kids have experienced things that one, no one should ever have to experience,
Right.
and then two, a majority of people will never experience.
Yeah.
But their emotional age gets stunted or stops to mature past the age of trauma. And so you're helping them go through life while recognizing that they may, social emotionally be at a 10-year-old, 11, 12-year-old, but they have big bodies and they have access to things that a 7-year-old largely doesn't, right? And the access to those things, I mean, I think we should just be honest, is drugs, alcohol, substances, sexual relationships. And I think parents in general have a hard time talking to their kids about those things, right? But I think I live in the world, these things are available. And how do we help kids heal so that they don't choose their coping mechanism of choice? And when they do choose their coping mechanism, how do we lovingly help them through that instead of being afraid of whatever that coping mechanism was, right? And I had two really great parents that were just always really honest with what I was experiencing or what I was being exposed to in a public high school. I mean, I went to a great public high school, but there was access to things, right? I had a nurse for a mom, so she was just very like scientific and actual and age appropriate. And then I had a West Pointer for a dad who was loving and kind, but also, if you do these things, then you will end up here, right?
Yeah.
And so I think I've just embraced that, heading in, like taking that into this field of, we're going to have to talk about drugs, and we're going to have to talk about substances, and we're going to have to talk about relationships. And that is not scary. Those concepts in and of themselves are actually not scary. And because they're not scary, how do we talk about them?
Yeah.
Right. And I think getting well versed in those topics prior to fostering teens is helpful too.
Yeah, because while the topic of itself might not be scary, having that conversation feels very scary often.
Yeah.
So
it feels big.
It feels big, yeah. And sometimes don't you think as parents or a parent figure, we take on the responsibility to make, like for our kids, like we think that it's our job to not only explain and teach and love and nurture, but to also make the decision for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's too big of a burden. It's not our job. But how do you navigate some of those fears and realities?
Yeah. For me personally, I'm someone who's just rooted in scripture and rooted in my faith. And I think when I start to take on those fears, I am reminded of who carries them. and who is with me in all of those conversations. A couple of weeks ago, my husband and I opened our home as well, and we had a teen who had an interaction with substances that we weren't anticipating. And my husband had a late night at work at school. He's at seminary. And I was like, okay, looks like I'm having this convo all by myself. Okay. But at the same time, I then was like hit with this overwhelming feeling of like, you're not doing it by yourself. And I was like, oh gosh, Lord, you're so right. Like you and I are doing this together. And it's got to be you and I, because I cannot be the only one in this room.
Yes.
And so just being reminded that in all of those conversations and all of those things, the Lord is near and he's with you and he loves those kids more than you ever could.
Yeah.
And I think that is how I navigate, and that's how I try to help our families navigate. But also too, I think something we don't talk about often is our the fears of our reputation being impacted. Like how we're seen by our community, how we're seen by Momco or our church group or our friend group if our kids do those things. And when it comes to foster care, our foster families are putting their reputation on the altar and saying like, Lord, you are worth it. Like you are above and beyond what anyone could ever look at me or think of me. And I'm going to do my best to love these kids, and they will make probably choices that I wish they didn't and people can judge me for, but you are worth it and these kids are worth it. And I think but you have to go through a grieving process of that and a bolstering of like, okay, and the Lord is worth it.
I love how you said put your reputation on the altar. As you were saying that, the phrase that's common is you put your reputation on the line, right? And I loved, so that's what I was expecting. And yet when you say put it on the altar, it has such a deeper meaning because that's everything, right? We go back to the source of strength and we say, I'm not having any idols before me, including my reputation.
Totally. Because when I've opened my home and I've had 2 kids that were acting a fool on the playground and I was over there, there's nothing that stresses me out more than a neighborhood playground. Like all of the little relationships. And I'm just over there going like, I thought we were doing better. Like I thought we were past this meltdown or this screaming up. And I have all of these strangers looking at me like, are you gonna do something? And I'm like, okay, Lord. Like I'm just placing a reputation on the altar of like, these strangers are never gonna know all of the work that we have put in to these kids, and they'll never see the love that they have, and all of that has nothing to do with their behavior right now. And I wish I was this all-star parent or looked like this all-star parent, but I love these kids more than my reputation. And I'm just going to lay that before the Lord and know that I love these kids more than my reputation.
That's so important. Something you talked about earlier and about how their numerical age, their emotional age, we talked all about this, right? That it's different. The emotional age is about half, you said. How it feels like then our expectations going into this are so important, because if I view my 18-year-old more as a 9-year-old, and if I have my expectations aligned with a 9-year-old's behavior, I can be more patient. I can understand things a little bit differently. But if I'm viewing my 18-year-old and expecting them to respond like an 18-year-old, I'm going to get real frustrated. So talk about some realistic expectations, maybe beyond that, but include that as well, and how important preparing our expectations is.
Yeah. A phrase I often say is we redefine success. Because like you mentioned, if you expect an 18-year-old to behave like an 18-year-old, you're probably expecting them to fill out college applications. You're probably expecting them to have a stable job. You're probably expecting them to have a driver's license and be able to maneuver around a city. with full confidence, right? Like those are some like natural things that 18-year-old who hasn't experienced significant trauma could attain. And I think all of those things are attainable for our kids. But at the same time, when we have a youth that isn't hitting those natural markers, we redefine success. And that is a constant reorganization of your mind. And I think it's trying to focus on what is going really well and finding true joy in that. And maybe that means they went to school 5 days a week and there was no incidents. That's phenomenal, right? And we're redefining success. We redefine success. So yeah, so when they do get their first job and it wasn't exactly the job that you thought or wanted or hoped, but they got a job, we redefine success, you know? And I think keeping that in mind is super helpful. And again, if you are looking to your friends or your community that have bio kids that have no significant trauma and they're doing X, Y, and Z and your kids aren't there, you have to keep your eyes focused on the Lord and on what you got going in front of you, because comparison is the thief of joy. And so how do we find joy in our kids with where they're at, and how do we help them redefine success? I think a lot of our kids too are mindful of, they know that they are not at reading level, you know, or they know that they can't do basic math. They're aware of that.
Yes.
And if you're constantly reminding them or constantly asking them to do the things that they can't do, their self-worth will plummet.
Yes.
But if you celebrate the wins, the small wins, the things that they're really good at, you just see them stand a little taller. And so I often say to you, our kids are puzzles and we're just figuring out what the pieces are. And so being naturally curious and staying curious. And again, we opened our home to a teen. And so I was finding out what Roblox is. No idea. Still don't think I understand. But man, I was interested for a solid hour because that's what she wanted to talk about, you know? Or a zombie apocalypse video game. Never played a zombie apocalypse game. I'm pretty sure it would keep me up at night, you know? But man, I was curious about it. And it's celebrating that she reached a certain level. Like, I don't know, just finding the reasons to celebrate and helping them define what success is. Our girl had gone through a really hard period of life, and I just celebrated every day when she got done with her homework. I was you did your homework today. That's awesome. You did your schoolwork. Let's go make some s'mores. And it might feel trite, but who doesn't love to be celebrated? You know, who doesn't love to feel like they are just winning? Especially these kids who have been told for a long period of time that they aren't worthy or loved or valued.
Well, when you're already dealing with so much shame, that can be overpowering. And so if you're just getting scolded or, ugh, why do you do that? Or if they're seeing other kids in the family who are younger than them achieving things they know they can't achieve, it's demoralizing. And so I agree, like those celebrating those wins and the authentic celebration of authentic things they really do bring, because all of our kids are different, right? All of us are different. I might not bring really strong skills in the math department, which is true. But I might understand people and loving people and, you know, have an ability to connect with people. Like, and that's a gift as well. So Missy, I'm thinking right now of someone who's like, okay, God has been stirring something in me here. It feels very overwhelming. It feels scary. In fact, I don't feel like I have a ton of emotional capacity, and yet I'm feeling this nudge, like, what do I even do with that? How do I know if I'm supposed to step into this, if I'm supposed to reach out, be available, or not?
if I was talking to that person, I think I first would ask them, or yeah, I think I would ask them, does their community know about this desire? And are they asking their community to pray about it with them? Um, one of the key defining success markers that I've seen at Olive Crest is foster families that have a community are much more successful than those that don't. And by successful, I mean they're able to weather the storms of foster care. They're able to find balance at the end of the day because they have natural support systems. And they also have someone to call when they're like, listen, I just need a 2-hour break from this child.
Yes, yes.
And San Diego is a super transient city because people come for the weather, they love it, and then they go back home, wherever home is. So specifically in San Diego, because we don't have a lot of generations of families here, it's so important to have community, that those people you can call. I mean, yeah. So one, I think I would ask if they have talked to their community and if their community is praying them for it, about it. And then two, I think I would try to get proximate to people who are doing this work, and buy them dinner or bring them dinner and say, can I ask you a few questions? This work is very vulnerable. So you might just have to get used to being vulnerable and asking people for help and hard questions and seeing what their response is. And then as you're praying, and I think as the Lord leads you, taking the next step to reaching out to an agency and having that discussion with them. I think the Lord will either continue to open doors or he'll close them. And I think trusting yourself in that process is huge. And I think too, discerning if it's a closed door or if it's just that like normal fear of the unknown. And if it's that, then just dive in. I promise there's people to catch them and to celebrate with them and get involved in the community. There's a large foster community. I hope in most places. In San Diego, I know there's a huge community, whether it's support groups or service opportunities or respite nights or care communities. I mean, you can find people who are doing this. So find the people, ask the questions, ask the hard questions, ask the questions that are keeping you up at night, not the not the questions that are surface level. Like ask the tough questions, because we've all asked those tough questions. We've all asked the questions, am I good enough? Am I going to actually be good at this? What if, their bio family? I think often people wonder about safety. So ask the tough questions of safety. Have you ever felt unsafe? And what did that look like? Ask the questions about what childcare looked like, and ask the questions about what happens if I don't attach. And ask the hard questions, because we've all been there. We have all asked the hard questions, and we all decided to do it anyways. You kind of have to be a little bit crazy to do it. So welcome to the club,
Yeah, and for those who maybe don't have a strong fostering community around them, there are good communities online. There are wonderful ministries out there that do support groups in various areas, like Foster the Family, like We're Planted. I know Promise 686 has care for foster families. Any others that you want to mention that would be good resources for someone who maybe doesn't have this sort of thing in their area? They could at least reach out to some of these organizations.
Yeah, there's a phenomenal training organization called Faith Bridge U. And they provide live trainings online, but they also just have a swath of trainings you can tune into at any time on demand. So I'd look into that. I'd read books. There are so many books, and not all of them are equal weight, but all of them provide a unique perspective. And so Googling books works just as well. And there's so much information you can take in, and we live in such an age where you can tune into so many different platforms and take a break when you start to feel your, shoulders rise to your
Too
ears
much,
and your
yeah.
breaths start to shallow. But at the same
Yeah.
time, there's awesome information out there
Yeah.
via TikTok and Instagram, ebooks and podcasts. So just dive in and listen and be curious. Curiosity and foster care is going to get you so far. So might as well start at the beginning.
Yeah. And why does it matter to do some of that prep work before jumping in?
I think I've been hit recently with the reality that there's nothing new under the sun. I think we like to think we're like very unique, and my circumstance is the most unique. But a lot of this, there's nothing new. And so doing the pre-work will prepare you for when your time comes, because your time will come. You know, whether as a teenager, like if you're opening your homes to teens, your kid will probably run. And I say that very nonchalantly, but I think it's just because it's like, yeah, that will happen, you know? But I think too, there's 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds that are your bio kids, and they also like to go out on the town too.
Yeah.
So be prepared, like read the book, you know, and watch the information and listen to the podcast that tells you about what to do or what their experience was like. Read. It's so important to do the pre-work because it's going to be a huge shift to your life. You know, there's going to be more social workers in your life than you can count. You're going to have more appointments than you ever wished on anybody. But if you read and if you get involved and if you, get prepared, you're going to have more tools in your tool belt for when those times come. You can't be prepared for everything.
Sure.
It's not possible.
Sure. Yeah.
But you're going to be able to draw back on that information and be like, oh, wait. And you're going to know where to go for when that time hits.
Yeah.
Whether it's that book that you read or that website you tuned into or that training, you're going to be able to draw it out from the depths of your memory and be like, oh, I think this is what I was supposed to do. And you might just have a few more tools in your tool belt for when that time comes. It's just so important. We go into marriage with premarital counseling. We need to go into foster care with training and preparedness.
Hey friends, it's Jami just popping in to let you know that during the entire month of February, applications to become a TFI advocate are open. Now, if you've been a longtime listener or if you've been following the Forgotten Initiative, you are well aware of this advocate role, and maybe God has been nudging your heart to take this next step. Well, I want to encourage you to apply during the month of February. Training for this new advocate cohort will begin in April, and we would love to see you there. Talk about some of the kids that you've worked with or that stories you've heard from families that just make you smile or that just, you think, wow, I'm so grateful for that, the fact that someone really did invest in them because it really made a difference.
Yeah. There's one family, and he's a single foster dad, and I am his biggest fan. He opened his home to preteen, and this youth had so many placements before him. And it wasn't an easy road. There was a lot of ups and downs. And when he turned 18, he enlisted in the military. And we recently got to celebrate with him that the foster dad was called Dad for the first time ever. And I think, again, we redefined success.
Yeah.
So we defined success that he was providing a loving, caring place, and he got him through high school. And I remember just telling him one day, that day will come when he calls you Dad. It will come. We just are waiting and looking forward to anticipation. And then he did. And we just got to celebrate, and we all were weeping together because we knew it would come.
Yeah.
We also have a foster mom who has been caring for a teen, and the teen was with her for about 4 months, and then she ran. And we anticipated that. We expected that. We were brokenhearted when it happened. And we texted her every day while she was gone. Um, the It's policy for the county to close her file after 10 days after the youth leaves a home. And we had to advocate for them to keep her open for 10 days post AWOLing, but that's a story for a different time. And so we texted her every day. And then finally, after a month and a half, she texted us and she asked, "Do you think my foster mom would want me back?" And we got to say yes. This foster mom loves you, wants you, has been praying for you and asking about you every day. And she came back. And a year and a half later, they've been doing well.
Wow.
And I think that foster mom, her success is she redefines success every day.
Yeah.
So even the other week, I was with them and we were, laundry was just being completed. And my foster mom was like, off to the side, she was like, "Would I love if she folded that laundry?" Yes. And be happy she's just sorting it. I am.
Uh-huh.
And she's that. And she was like, she's been through so much this foster youth that I'm just happy that she did her laundry and she's sorting. Like, she's not picking the battles.
Yeah.
She knows which battles to pick.
Yeah.
And we're just so grateful for both of those caregivers.
Yeah.
Because they have just offered unconditional love. And we just wish there was more families that would be willing to do so.
Yeah. Both of those stories emphasize the importance of that stick with itness, don't they? Like there was trust built over time for the one who finally called him dad and who felt safe enough to call him dad. And then for that one who ran and was gone, where normally people would just say, "No, you can't come back," or like you said, the state would even close. That's powerful. And it does show this is not a quick reward type work, foster care in general, right? But again, that's why we must be doing it out of obedience to the Lord more than anything, not to be the savior, not to like go do a good thing, not to even help children, but because God has called us to be obedient to him.
Yeah. I mean, even when my husband and I recently opened our home to our teen, he and I were talking afterwards, and he was like, "I don't know if we did anything." He's like, "I wish I could have done things differently. I have no idea." There was like, no felt connection. And I was like, "Honey, like we provided her a loving, caring, safe place."
Yeah, that's right.
That's what we redefined success. And then she needed another place again. And she reached out to me directly and said, "Hey, can I stay with you guys?" Well, I got to screenshot that and send it to my husband and say, "And this is success." She felt safe enough and cared about enough that she would reach out.
Yeah.
And so, and it's not easy because, a teenager isn't going to be like showy with their emotions typically.
Yeah.
But it was that text of her reaching out and knowing what that means and what vulnerability she's providing for rejection. I mean, rejection is the hardest thing for our kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she was opening herself up to that. And like I say, this is what success looks like. And he was like, "Okay, let's do it."
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's critical. That redefining success is such a key reminder. Again, it goes back to expectations. It goes back to all the things. So thank you for that. Any final words, Missy, that you have? Let's just maybe speak directly to the foster parent who is continually sensing the Lord is calling them to this, but they just truly are very, very afraid.
That's such a good question. And I would say to that foster parent that's so afraid is that you are not alone. You're not alone in this. And I promise you that if you step into this, the Lord will be with you and you will see miracles. You will see breakthrough. And it is worth it. And we have to be willing to be afraid and step forward for the sake of these kids. The outcomes for the teens who age out are horrific. And we can't let our fear hold us back anymore. And because I know that's why people aren't saying yes to these kids. And we have to be willing to take that extra step. That fear is there to protect us. That's why God, created us with all of these feelings. And yet, God says, fear not, for I'm with you. And you have to be willing to place everything on the altar and ask the Lord to refine you and refine your life. I think when I hear people talk about teens, I hear them say, well, what if they steal? And I'm like, yeah, what if they steal? Is their life not much more valuable than your laptop or your AirPods or your whatever, your jewelry? Are they not more valuable than that? Or I hear people say, well, what if they destroy my property? What if they, punch a hole in the wall? Or what if they set my house on fire? I've never had a fire starter. And let's just say. And I think I would say, yes, is their life not more valuable than your property? We have to be willing to realize and recognize that they are God's image. They bear his image, and he has created them. And they need people in their life who choose them over and over and over and say, you are more valuable than the destruction you caused, and the chaos you've started, the F's you're getting on your report cards. You are still more valuable than that. My favorite verse is Matthew 6:26. That says, look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? And that was the verse that changed my life as an adopted kid. And we have to be willing to tell kids that they are so much more valuable than anything. So, yeah.
Missy, thank you. Thank you so much for being on. Thank you for your heart and your love for the Lord and just for sharing with us today. I appreciate you.
Of course. Thanks so much for the work that you're doing and the Forgotten Initiative. It's been a game changer in San Diego, and I'm hopeful that when people hear this and listen to our conversation, that they might say yes to caring for teens. They so need a person in their corner.
Yes, and amen. Thank you again for listening today. I hope this episode resonated with you. Let us know your thoughts. We really love hearing from you. And as always, if you want to learn more about TFI, catch up on past episodes, read engaging articles, or partner with us on mission with a gift of any amount, head over to theforgotteninitiative.org. And until next time, remember, if you're feeling overwhelmed, misunderstood, or questioning, why am I doing what I'm doing? Remember, you have a whole community here who cares for you. And even more, Jesus is fully able to meet your every need. Lean on him and find rest in him today. I look so forward to being together again very soon.